When diabetes shows up on a blood test, your cells have already been at war for up to 10 years, not fighting a virus, not fighting bacteria, fighting a lock that stopped turning, insulin, the key that opens your cells to energy, being ignored cell by cell. Here are the 5 battles your body has been silently losing, long before you feel the first symptom. Every day, billions of cells in your body wait for just one thing: insulin. It is the key that unlocks the door to let the sugar in your blood enter and turn into energy. Without this key turning, the cell simply doesn't eat, no matter how much sugar is outside knocking on the door. And this is exactly what is happening right now, inside millions of bodies that have never heard a diagnosis. The key exists, the lock exists, so why won't the door open? The answer is more disturbing than it seems. The cell is ignoring the key on purpose. When the body is exposed to excess insulin for too long, the cells start reducing the number of receptors that respond to it, a protective mechanism against signal overload. But this mechanism, created to protect the cell, is the exact same one that is now starving it. The door that was supposed to open with a key has started locking itself out. And if the cell is rejecting the body's own key, what is left for the body to do with the sugar that keeps arriving, endlessly, through the bloodstream? If your body has already fought a war like this without you knowing, imagine how many others are going on in there right now. Subscribe to keep following these battles. The answer starts in an organ that hasn't given up yet, and that is about to pay a high price for it. The pancreas doesn't know that the cell is intentionally ignoring the key. All it sees is sugar piling up in the blood, non-stop. And the only answer it knows for this is to produce more insulin, once again and again. An organ the size of your hand, working day and night to force a door that has already decided not to open. It is not defective. It is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The problem is that no one on the other side is listening. But there is a limit to how much an organ can scream before falling silent for good. The insulin-producing cells, the beta cells of the pancreas, are not infinite. Every extra shot of insulin wears this factory down a little more. For years, the body manages to compensate for the resistance with more production, until the day it no longer can. It is exactly at this point, when the factory finally burns out, that silent insulin resistance turns into diagnosed type 2 diabetes. But while the pancreas is still screaming, there is another process that has been happening in parallel. One that doesn't just affect a single organ, it literally affects your veins. While the pancreas exhausts itself, the sugar that should have entered the cells is still there, floating in your bloodstream, with nowhere to go. And free-floating sugar in excess is not a neutral substance. It reacts. It sticks. Specifically, it sticks to the proteins that form the walls of your blood vessels in a process called glycation. If this sounds familiar, it's because it's practically the same process as when you leave sugar in a hot pan until it darkens and hardens. Only here, the pan is your own veins. This process doesn't happen all at once. It is slow, cumulative, and silent. Every blood sugar spike adds a little more of this caramelization to the vascular walls, making them stiffer, narrower, and more prone to cracking. And the body feels none of this while it's happening. There is no nerve ending inside the wall of a blood vessel warning you that it is being damaged from the inside. And that is exactly why the explanation everyone learned about this disease is incomplete enough to be dangerous. And this is just one of the wars your body fights without warning. Subscribe to catch the next one. Most people grow up hearing the same phrase: diabetes is what happens when you eat too much sugar. It's simple, it's intuitive, and it is incomplete enough to be dangerous. Because while you wait for the day you'll eat too much sugar, The process of insulin resistance might have already been running inside your body for years, without any routine test detecting it, without any symptom appearing, without any apparent reason to suspect anything. The truth is that high blood sugar is not the cause. It is the end result of a cellular signaling process that had been deteriorating long before. Studies show that insulin resistance can develop silently for up to a decade before blood glucose rises enough to show up on a standard test. That is, the sugar test you take every year might be normal precisely while the real problem is already underway. And there are 3 places in your body that feel this mark before any other, because they depend on the most fragile vessels you have. The entire body is irrigated by blood vessels. But they are not all the same. The large arteries, the ones that carry blood to the heart to the brain, have thick, resilient walls built to withstand pressure. But there are places in the body where the vessels are so thin that they only let one blood cell pass at a time. And it is exactly these vessels, the smallest, most fragile ones, that first feel the effect of the silent glycation that has been happening for years. 3 regions of the body depend almost entirely on these microscopic vessels: the retina, inside the eye, the nephrons, the filtering units inside the kidneys, and the peripheral nerves in the hands and feet. None of these structures have backup vessels thick enough to compensate for the damage. When the wall of these vessels stiffens and narrows from glycation, the blood simply stops arriving properly where it needs to, and the structure that depends on it begins to fail in silence. And it is exactly this absence of pain that turns this signal into the most dangerous one of all. The distress signal comes from the peripheral nerves, and it is silent because it hits the exact system that should sound the alarm: pain. The nerves in your hands, and especially your feet, depend on a dense network of fine vessels to stay nourished and functioning. When this network begins to fail due to glycation, the nerves begin to die from the outside in, first at the tips of the toes, then moving upward. This is called diabetic peripheral neuropathy. And here is the most dangerous part. The symptom is not pain. It is the absence of it. A person can step on something sharp, hurt their foot in a poorly fitted boot, or develop a blister that turns into a wound, and feel absolutely nothing, because the very alarm system that should warn this is hurting you is already turned off. This is why foot injuries in people with advanced diabetes, left untreated in time, are among the leading causes of amputation worldwide. Not because the injury was severe at the start, but because no one felt it happen. And after seeing how far this process can go, one final question remains, perhaps the most important of all. After following this process from beginning to end, the ignored key, the exhausted pancreas, the sugar caramelizing veins from the inside, the thinnest vessels failing, the nerves shutting down, the question that remains is the most important of all. How much of this can still be undone? The answer is not the same for each stage. Early-stage insulin resistance, before the pancreas burns out, is, in most cases, reversible. Moderate weight loss, dietary changes, and regular physical activity can restore the cell's sensitivity to insulin in a matter of months. But once the damage becomes structural, dead peripheral nerves, retinas with already ruptured vessels, destroyed nephrons, it usually doesn't come back. The body can stabilize the damage and prevent it from worsening, but it cannot rebuild what has already been lost. It is this difference that changes everything. The same disease that, in one phase, is just an alarm you still have time to turn off, in another, is already a bill you can no longer avoid paying. Your body fights wars like this all the time, almost always without symptoms. Subscribe, we'll break down the next battle together.